The galaxy had been ancient long before memory had language. Asterisk stars had ignited and collapsed into silence and cycles, so vast that even the longest-lived civilizations could not truly comprehend them. Nebulae bloomed like cosmic gardens and faded into dust. Entire systems had formed and dissolved, while no mind existed to witness them. Time in the galaxy was not counted in centuries or millennia, but in epochs measured by light itself. Asterisk eventually. Thinking beings appeared. Asterisk on distant worlds. Scattered across the spiral arms. Different species looked upward and wondered the same question. Are we alone? They built instruments, then ships. They crossed the void with fear and hope braided together. Some found only silence. Others found each other. It did not happen quickly. First, contact between any two species was always fragile. There were misunderstandings, or moments of terror. But over millions of years, something remarkable occurred. Many of those civilizations chose cooperation over conquest. They discovered that isolation was lonelier than difference, that shared knowledge was more powerful than hoarded secrets, that survival was easier when it was collective. Asterisk from that philosophy emerged the concord of gentle minds. Asterisk it was not an empire. It had no throne world, no supreme ruler, no central army. It was a covenant, a promise freely entered into by over 400 sentient species spread across thousands of star systems. The promise was simple. Knowledge would be shared. Disputes would be resolved peacefully. No member species would ever wage war against another. The Concord had no warships. It had libraries the size of moons. Entire hollowed asteroids filled with recorded history, scientific data, art, philosophy, music, and mathematics. It had medical stations capable of treating hundreds of radically different biologies: silicon-based, carbon-based, aquatic, atmospheric, crystalline, photosynthetic. It had communication relays that allowed a being on one edge of its territory to speak in real time to another tens of thousands of light years away. Asterisk, it did not measure success in territory or power. Asterisk, it measured success in well-being. Asterisk, among its members were the Allorans. Asterisk, the Allorans were tall, slender beings with skin like translucent glass. Their internal structures refracted light faintly, giving them a soft inner glow. Their eyes shifted color with emotion: amber for curiosity, green for joy, violet for contemplation, deep blue for grief. Asterisk, their civilization was devoted entirely to beauty. Asterisk, their cities were living sculptures grown rather than built. Crystal lattice-formed towers that chimed when solar winds passed over them. Bridges arched across rivers of liquid silver, glowing gently at night. Gardens were shaped over centuries into moving mosaics of color and fragrance. Asterisk, Aloran technology was seamless with art. Power conduits were woven into crystalline frameworks that sang harmonic tones when energy flowed through them. Transportation systems glided silently through corridors of refracted light. Even their data archives were aesthetic constructs, knowledge embedded in patterns of luminous geometry. Asterisk, their greatest ambition was not dominance. It was wonder. Another species. The theory could not have been more different. They were small. Six-limbed beings covered in soft gray fur, with wide black eyes that missed little. Where the Allorans chased beauty, the theory pursued mathematics. Their cities were compact, efficient structures optimized for thought. Entire generations dedicated themselves to solving abstract problems, modeling gravitational anomalies, refining quantum computation, exploring philosophy through equation. They believed that the universe was a solvable system. The Odyssey lived in oceans on massive water worlds. Vast, luminous beings the size of small whales, they communicated through intricate patterns of bioluminescent light rippling across their skin. They were navigators and explorers. Their mapping of interstellar space was unparalleled. As a star could be charted, an Odyssey expedition had likely passed near it. Asterisk, the Ven were ancient beyond measure. Their bodies resembled something between stone and plant, slow-moving, rooted in patience. A Ven elder could remember events from 1,000,000 years prior with crystalline clarity. Their culture valued endurance and reflection. Where others reacted, the Ven contemplated, across hundreds of species. The pattern was consistent. They were peaceful. In the long history of the Concord, conflict had been managed through dialogue and compromise. When resources were scarce, they redistributed them. When misunderstandings arose, they convened councils. When new species were discovered, they were approached carefully and offered guidance, not domination. Violence was studied only as a historical phenomenon, a developmental stage primitive civilizations eventually outgrew. The Concord believed, with deep certainty, that intelligence matured into compassion, that aggression was a childhood illness, that all thinking beings would one day abandon war, for millions of years. That belief had not been seriously challenged, until the edge went silent. It began near the galactic rim, in a chain of minor colony systems. Communication relays failed, supply vessels disappeared. Scout craft sent to investigate did not return. At first it was treated as a technical anomaly. Stellar interference, equipment malfunction, rare gravitational disturbance, Committees were formed, data was requested, more scouts were dispatched. They vanished too. Then the refugees arrived. Their ships were barely functional, hulls cracked, propulsion systems scorched. They were packed so tightly that many had perished during transit. The survivors were Polari, a minor Concord species resembling delicate winged insects. Their wings were torn. Their large dark eyes trembled with shock. They spoke of something from beyond. The rim from the dark intergalactic void, where no Concord expedition had ever truly ventured. A swarm, not conventional ships. Not mechanical in the way Concord technology was mechanical. These vessels were living constructs, biological and engineered simultaneously. Hulls of chitinous armor, fused with metal frameworks. Weapon systems grown rather than assembled. They did not transmit signals. They did not respond to hails. They did not negotiate. They arrived. They consumed. They moved on. Entire worlds stripped of resources, infrastructure, dismantled, data cores extracted. In some cases, populations harvested. The Polari called them the breath dominion, a phrase in their language meaning the mouth that is never full. The Concord responded the way it always had. It formed a high analysis committee. Data was compiled. Trajectories estimated. Diplomatic envoys were dispatched to the outer boundary with messages of peace, translated into every known linguistic and mathematical format. The envoys were never heard from again. The committee hypothesized miscommunication. More. Envoys were sent. They vanished too. Meanwhile, the breath advanced. They moved not with chaotic aggression, but with tidal inevitability. System by system, colony by colony, the outer territories fell. Long-range sensors captured images of planets reduced to barren rock. Orbital habitats dismantled molecule by molecule. No occupation, no settlement, only consumption. An emergency summit was called at the Gathering Hall, a colossal structure orbiting a serene binary star system near the center of Concord space. Representatives from 400 species convened. For the first time in living memory, the atmosphere was not calm, it was afraid. The theory presented predictive models. Based on current velocity and expansion vectors, breath swarm would reach the core systems within 2 standard years. The Odyssey displayed sensor recordings. Hundreds of thousands of vessels, possibly millions. The scale strained comprehension. Many. Delegates rejected the projections outright. The numbers seemed impossible. Then a Ven elder, who had remained silent through most of the proceedings, finally spoke. Its voice resonated like stone grinding softly. We have seen this pattern. Before, it said, in eras before the Concord existed, species like this arise. They consume until nothing remains within reach. A tremor moved through the hall. We survived then because we were small, quiet, scattered. They did not notice us. The Concorde is not small. It is luminous. It is unified. It has drawn attention. The chamber erupted an overlapping argument. Some demanded the immediate construction of weapons and fleets. Asterisk. Others argued for strategic retreat, abandoning outer territories and concentrating resources in the core. Asterisk. Some suggested shutting down all transmissions and attempting to hide. Asterisk. But there was no military infrastructure to scale, no weapon designs ready for mass production, no trained soldiers. Building a defense from nothing would require decades. They had 2 years. In the end, they did what they understood best. They debated further. Subcommittees were formed to explore options. Ethical frameworks were drafted. Resource allocation. Studies were commissioned. Asterisk. While they deliberated, the breath reached Allura Prime. Asterisk. LORA Prime was not strategically significant. It had no industrial megastructures, no major shipyards. It was a cultural world revered across the Concorde as one of the most beautiful planets ever shaped by sentient hands. Asterisk. Its crystal towers refracted starlight into living rainbows. Its cities shifted gently with the seasons. Skies were filled with harmonic gliders that created symphonies in motion. Asterisk. The breath did not care. Asterisk. They arrived without warning, a dark wall blotting out the stars. Alluran orbital platforms designed to redirect asteroids and manage space debris were not weapons. They were swept aside in minutes. Asterisk. Then the bombardment began. Asterisk. Not targeted strikes against military installations. Asterisk. Systematic eradication of population centers. Asterisk. Crystal towers shattered under energy impacts, their harmonic songs twisting into discordant shrieks before falling silent. Bridges of light collapsed into rivers below. Gardens cultivated over centuries ignited. The sky turned orange and black. Millions fled underground into emergency shelter networks designed for natural disasters, earthquakes, storms, volcanic activity, not sustained orbital assault. Asterisk. Elder Sarah stood in one of those shelters beneath the ruins of her capital. Asterisk. Her once brilliant eyes had settled into deep, unbroken blue. Asterisk. She had spent her life composing symphonies that moved other species to tears, designing gardens whose colors exceeded the visible spectrum of most eyes. Asterisk. Everything she had built was burning above her. But she was not only an artist, she was a leader. Asterisk. And despair. Communications chamber, a room unused for centuries. Young technicians fumbled with archaic systems, hands shaking. Asterisk. Send a distress signal, she instructed calmly. Every frequency, every language. Asterisk. A technician hesitated. Act it. Concorde is aware. They have observed. They've taken no action. Asterisk. Then send it beyond the Concorde, Sarah replied. To anyone who can hear. The message was not artful. It was raw. Asterisk. This is Allura Prime. We are under attack. Our cities are burning. Our people are dying. We have no weapons. We cannot. We do not want to die. The signal surged outward at light speed. Across Concorde space, it was received, translated, analyzed, debated. The theory calculated intervention losses as catastrophic. Asterisk. The Alasi proposed extended attempts at come.